Hi, and welcome to Cross Learning. Today we're going to talk about shapes. So when you look at this picture here, which one is different? So you probably said C. You see, this triangle is a larger triangle, and over here, it's the same triangle, it's just made up of two smaller triangles. Now what about this one? Which triangle is different? So if you're looking at it, you would probably say B. And the difference between this one is the orientation, the way that it's facing, right? So how do kids understand this through shapes? So perhaps you've shown them your common shapes, your square, circle, triangle, rectangle, maybe a trapezoid and a hexagon. But what does it teach about spatial skills? So what are spatial skills? Spatial skills are the orientation of objects or shapes in space. So they can be organized by the location, how close they are to each other, the size of them, or just the plain shape of them. So if you take a look at these, you have one next to the other. So you're looking at or giving an example of spatial skills. Same shapes, different orientation, and you can turn it that way to give it a different look. Spatial skills, because you're looking at the positioning of the object in space, whether it be on top of it, whether this is smaller, a smaller cube. But kids need to understand spatial skills because it will help them when they get older in their everyday life. It could be something like driving, it could be reading a map, it could be building, things like architecture, things of that sort. So how can we teach this in a way that is easily understandable to kids? So you can show them a couple of shapes, and then you can also point to the different sizes, large circle versus small circle, half circle, quarter circle. Or you can talk about how different shapes can be used to make a whole different shape or something larger. You can use two half circles, and of course you can overlay those two on top of the large circle to get one circle. Or you can use 4 quarters to overlay on here, or you can use 2 quarters and 1 half. You can do the same thing with triangles, and you can also do the same thing with squares. So sort of how we have here. You have 4 different squares, and you can use these 4 different squares to make a larger square. So you can have your child play around with different shapes, different ways to make a square. Taking 4 smaller squares, putting them on top to make a square. Or, of course, you can use 2 rectangles to overlay to make the square. So it's a great way to teach spatial skills. Another way that you can teach spatial skills would be through using sticks and also the spheres here, and putting them together to make shapes. And you can do the same thing with the triangle and other shapes that don't involve curves. That's if you're using a straight line. You can interchange them with smaller parts and get another quadrilateral, which would be a trapezoid. Or you can put them together and slant them to make a parallelogram. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with your child to be able to play with different type shapes. If you don't have these at home, you can also use toothpicks and marshmallows, or you can use toothpicks and gumdrops, and you can achieve the same thing. Other things that you can do are, they sell these in some stores. You have a picture card, and you task the child with making the same object using blocks. And you tell your child, hey, can you copy this? So it's a fun way or a fun thing to do, and it's also interactive and a great way to learn spatial skills at the same time. So of course you can put these together. See if I can do this backwards. See how good my spatial skills are? And there you go. Looks like the picture. And it's also a lesson on copying. Yet another thing that you can use that I like to do are overlaying shapes on top of an already designed object so that you can learn or teach matching skills, and then also the way shapes to go together at the same time. And in this case, it's a flat picture, but it creates something that is a little three-dimensional. Like that. And one last thing that you can do. You ever seen one of these? It's a tangram. And tangrams are made up of 7 pieces, triangles, small triangles, larger triangles, a parallelogram, and a square. And the idea is that you put these shapes together and you can mimic an object. So this one I already have done. And of course you can do it by actually following the card, because some of them have the handy answers on the back. But as your child gets a little better with spatial skills, they can learn to do some of them on their own. And then there are also simple versions in which a kid can do. May not be that easy, but it's a learning process. So those are just a couple of ideas of different ways that you can teach spatial skills, teach shapes, and teach the relationship between objects in the world. So that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.